What if thought leaders from around the university came together to discuss state-of-the-art remedies to 21st century challenges? Florida Atlantic University's faculty are pioneering education through cutting-edge solutions such as artificial intelligence, authentic assessment, and active learning. Join us as our faculty forge new paths to the future of higher education. From the Center for Online and Continuing Education, this is Faculty Lounge Live.
Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of Faculty Lounge Live. I'm so excited to be here today with my guest from the Office of Information Technology. Before we start, I do want to give a little shout out to the Office of Information Technology. They work tirelessly to support our faculty, staff, and students in all things technical, from our learning management system Canvas to Microsoft 365 products and apps. They offer trainings, webinars, one-on-one assistance, and I feel like they were a very vital part of having our university continue through, the whole COVID trial that we went through. So just wanting to give a shout out to them. And to bring me to my next point, my guest here today is Rhian Resnick. He is the Director of Research Computing with FAU's Office of Information Technology. Since joining FAU in 2010, Rhian has brought extensive expertise in research, computing clusters, enterprise servers, applications, and identity management. He holds a bachelor's degree in biological sciences, aquaculture, and a master's degree in computing information systems, both from Florida Institute of Technology. Rhian played a pivotal role in establishing Florida's first national science-funded artificial intelligence and deep learning laboratory. Under his leadership, the research computing team is responsible for developing and supporting the advanced technology systems that empower our students and researchers across all FAU campuses. Thank you for being here today, Rhian.
Thank you.
I know I did a little bit of an introduction for you, but could you give us a little bit more about yourself?
Sure. So I've been here since 2010, and I came in to help with identity management. But at Florida Tech, I had helped run our HPC clusters there, and that spawned the ability to kind of help bring online a cluster here at the university. So that started about 2013.
Okay.
And we formed a team of individuals that are here to facilitate and help researchers get to their results and their research faster. It's kind of the key thing that we want to focus on is getting faculty to have data processed and analyzed as quickly as possible, because time is of the essence, and the faster they can get results, the faster they come up with a new theory and apply that theory.
Beautiful.
So that's kind of what we're here to help with. All of our resources run out of the Jupiter campus. So we're often up there working with the Brain Institute and different groups up in Jupiter. We have a good relationship with Max Planck and Scripps. And we've helped build things like the Science DMZ network and upgrade the intercommunication between the campuses from 1 gig at most campuses to 10 gigs. Then we did that with the National Science Foundation grant in coordination with the iSense Institute.
Beautiful. Love it. All right. Well, one of the reasons why we did bring you here today is to talk a little bit about artificial intelligence and how you maybe are using that in your work or personal life.
So how do I use it in my personal life and work life? So I use it all the time. One of my favorite examples that I've been talking about a little bit is solving the white page problem. That's just from a work point of view. I am gotten better at writing as I've gotten older and taken more classes on writing. But I started out as the person where the faculty member in my science education classes asked, how exactly did you learn to write? Because you need to learn how to do it better. But starting out with a white page and how do you get started?
Right.
AI is there to help you. And so something like Microsoft Copilot, you can ask it a question and it'll give you a starting point. But more importantly, you can ask it a question and give it data.
Right.
And it'll give you the answer. And then you can edit that and get it into your tone, your format, make it sound like you. And most of the time when I do it, I end up rewriting every single thing I get from the AI, but it solves that starting point problem.
Exactly.
And so it's something that's very, very useful for things like form letters and stuff that we do all the time. And it makes it sound like the person gets a unique message. And by the way, since I have to edit it so much, it is unique and it is mine.
Yeah.
But, Copilot's there to help us with that. And I use it quite often for the white page problem. But I use it even more for some things like I have a set of slides
Okay.
that I got from my grandmother and grandfather. It came via my mom, and she came down and gave me like 1,000 slides. Okay. And I've been going through and scanning those slides, and I have no descriptions on those slides. Mm-hmm. But if I pass those slides to an online AI, I can ask it to give me a description of those slides, and it can do some interesting things. So that's my personal work. And then in research, well, AI helps with a lot of fun things. I do a lot of work with the Cub Scouts.
Okay.
And we go hiking. And by hiking, I mean we drive like a mile away from our house and discover that there's an interesting wildlife preserve that we had no idea existed in Palm Beach County. We go walk through the wildlife preserve, and I know mostly every animal that you see there because I have a biology degree. Now, yes, it's aquaculture, but just take aquaculture and replace it with marine biology and change 2 classes. Mm-hmm. That's my degree.
Okay.
So I should know what most of these animals are, but my experience really comes from about 2 hours north. Come down to South Florida, things change a little bit.
Yes.
I saw a bird. I said, I've never seen that bird before. It must be invasive, but let's take a photo of it with Google Lens, which is AI, and ask it to identify the bird. I take a photo of the bird, and it's like the Florida singing duck. I'm like, I've never heard about this Florida singing duck. Look at my friends. I've never heard of the Florida singing duck. They're like, neither have I. Apparently, it's endangered or at risk, and you don't see it very often. But at this wildlife reservation, there it is. So that's how it's helped me in my personal life.
Right. And you had never seen it before.
Never seen it before.
Studied about
and
it before.
we took a photo of it. We're like, holy cow. That's what it is.
Florida.
And people are always asking me like, what is this? I'm like, well, I can tell you that it's native or it's invasive, but really I can't identify the name. The AI helps me solve that issue.
Amazing. I think to your point of how you use it in your personal life, you like to help you with the blank page problem. I think that's great too for, teachers if they're wanting to write feedback to their students on assignments, they could use it to kind of switch it up a little bit and not be giving the same cut and dry feedback that they're giving every single student. So
letters
I really
of recommendation.
Like that. Yeah, letters of recommendation.
Anything that's got to be uniquely written. You just don't want a form.
Right.
Like, yes, I have a form letter for a recommendation, but it's blah. It's not customized very much for the student. Well, if I can give it a lot of data, like give the AI data about that student, which, by the way, use our Copilot AI for that, not some other random AI, because it'll protect your information, you can get a much better form letter.
100%. I agree with that. All right. So on to my next question. How does the work you do impact teaching faculty?
So one of the things that we were trying to investigate is how can AI help in the different areas? And so some of the questions we'll probably talk about are like, how does it affect research? How does it affect teaching? Well, AI is not, we don't want to generate students or graduates that don't know how to use the tool sets that are going to exist when they leave. And I remember when I was taking my biology degree, like having to memorize over and over and over all these species, and specifically like literally memorizing which species of shell I was looking at. And I went to my faculty member and I said, why on earth am I doing this? I could just program a computer to do this, because I was a bit of a nerd from a computer technical point of view. And he said, well, this is what you need to do when you graduate. You're going to be like an intern or like a level 1, person, and they're going to have you identifying shells. And so you better be able to identify shells all day. And I looked at them and said, that's crazy. Like, that's insane. Why would anybody identify cells by hand? But if you went to school back in the 80s and the 70s, yeah, that's what you would do. But, in 2000s, we had computers. Why aren't we using computers to do this? And I literally showed him how I could write an AI to resolve this issue. And this, again, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. This is not new stuff.
Okay.
And he said, well, that's what you have to do, so you're going to have to do it. I'm like, oh, shit. The worst classes of my life. Well, why are we teaching that way? What do we actually want the students to be able to do when they leave? Do we want them to know what every shell is? Or do we want them to know, maybe at a high level, which family the shell belongs to so they can verify the AI? But would it be better to have them be able to use the AI to do some identification of those shells? And that's just an example from, marine biology. We can do the same thing with cellular identification of brain tissue, muscle tissue, animal tissue versus plant tissue, meiosis versus mitosis. Very, very powerful stuff that we can look at.
Yeah.
And so I think that's how we need to start thinking about teaching. How can it help us? That doesn't mean that the students don't need to identify what the stages of meiosis and mitosis are. They do.
Right.
But also bring into that, how can they use AI to help identify that?
Right.
For instance, I took a slide of onion cells in different stages of meiosis and mitosis and said, hey, AI, what is this? You know what? It identified it better than I did.
Wow, that's amazing. That actually takes me back to a study that I heard about, and I think we had spoken briefly about this, about how there was like a medical group that they gave a bunch of scans of lungs, right? And the students, did quite well in identifying like where there was cancer and whatnot. But then they fed these images to an AI, and they were able to get the cancer like 100% of the time, while the students were only doing 80. So I thought that was really cool.
So our Brain Institute up in Jupiter is doing a lot of work like that, and they do utilize machine learning-based AI. That's not the generative AI or the large language model AI that we talk about. This is machine learning, where they throw lots of samples of examples of what tumors are and different things, and then they ask the AI. They're like, "Hey, here's a scan of a human brain. Where's the cancer?"
Right.
Here's a scan of a mouse brain. Where's the cancer? Does it have cancer? And yes, it does a great job. But you know what it can only do? It can only identify that type of cancer in that situation.
Okay.
The new generative AIs, they have the ability to say, what's wrong with this brain? From the following point of view. Tell me if it has cancer, this, or this. And it is smart enough to go, you know what? This is the problem.
Wow.
The hard part is knowing when it doesn't hallucinate or not, which is why we don't see a lot of that in the medical field yet, but we certainly are seeing it in the research field.
That's amazing. I love it. All right. So for my next question, how does the work that you do impact our research faculty?
Well, all this AI stuff costs money. And during the AI Playground last week, there was a question that came up from one of my favorite faculty members to work with. And he asked the question, this is all great and wonderful, but when I went to my dean or my chair and I said, hey, this is great, I want to use this, it's going to be $350.
Okay.
And luckily, the chair was able to find some money and fund the project. Well, AI can become expensive.
That's true.
And so if I want to have, 300 students go play out in AI, I'm going to spend a substantial amount of my time as a faculty member, which I teach as an adjunct, finding the free AI tool.
Exactly. Yeah.
Versus if there was some type of university-blessed AI playground area that was funded, that we could do that, and that would be great.
Right.
But we know that's going to be hard to fund. So one of the things we try to do when we're helping the faculty is go, where are the on-site resources that we can use to do things? Exactly. So we have a large HPC cluster up in Jupiter, which is more powerful than any one computer that we'd have, and it's definitely more powerful than the computers in any of our computer labs.
Okay.
We offer a bunch of helping tools to help faculty get on and work with students quickly and easily so that they can submit jobs to the cluster and take advantage of computing that's on-prem that can do AI.
Okay.
One of my favorite examples is I was I was demonstrating this to the directors over in OIT, because like every department, we have a monthly meeting. And, we are trying to learn about AI and show people what we can do with AI. And I said, what would be great is if I had the CIO for the university read to us Moby Dick. And my goal was to be able to sit in the meeting and record his voice and then pipe it into the system and have him say Moby Dick and demonstrate from a positive point of view, look how easy this was.
Right.
From a negative point of view, oh my gosh, look how easy it is to clone a person's voice. Unfortunately, he was interrupted multiple times during the meeting, kept having to go in and out, so I couldn't get a good sample. But the week before, I might have tested my process out by going on Memory Alpha, which is the Star Trek memorabilia website, downloading a whole bunch of samples of Jean-Luc Picard being Jean-Luc Picard, or Patrick Stewart being Jean-Luc Picard, spending a little bit of time on my Mac, cleaning them up, and then eventually getting Jean-Luc Picard to read us the first chapter of Moby Dick for the directors' meeting, which resulted in the same discussion, which was the point of the meeting.
Right.
So that wasn't something I could do on my laptop. It would have taken my laptop days to do that analysis, the AI work, and I have a fast laptop. I've got a top-of-the-line MacBook Pro, and it would have taken forever. I did it on the HPC cluster in 15 minutes.
Okay.
All right. So the cluster is there to help faculty. If you're doing research for the point of view of students, it won't cost you anything.
Okay.
It's there as a resource to be shared with everyone.
Beautiful.
If you're doing research and real research, not that is not real research, but if you're doing like high computational research that needs to run for days and days and days and days, we might have to charge to get you onto the cluster to do the resource you want, or you might have to try to buy in. But the clusters are there specifically for the point of view of education because it was initially funded by students.
Beautiful.
And so we have that resource that's available to students and academic faculty from the point of view of academic faculty for no charge.
And where would they find that information, students?
So if you go to the OIT knowledge base on Team Dynamics, which is where we do call tickets, we also have a knowledge base in there, and there's a link for research computing right there. They can find out some basic information. They can look at our cyber infrastructure plan, which is kind of where we're going to support research. They can also get a list of services. If you're one of those faculty members who's been bitten by the Office 365 and Google quotas, we have solutions there for you. They cost money, I'm sorry, but we have the solutions there.
Yeah.
And we also have solutions that reduce the cost.
Beautiful.
So we're there to help.
Love it. I'll make sure to drop any links in our follow-up email to our guests if you need for that information that we just spoke about. And that really brings me to my last question that I have for you right now is how do you think that what you do affects teaching and learning as overall?
Well, I missed one. Can I roll back one? I forgot to show 2 slides.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
So
yeah.
when I was talking about research and students, I've got my first slide is kind of an example of something that doesn't affect College of Engineering and Computer Science. I love those guys and I teach with them, but I want to talk about more how we affect end users. And so we did some cool things with AI. So my first thing, this comes out, the first slide is a slide that I got from my grandparents and I scanned it and I had no idea where it was from.
Okay.
All I had, the only description for a group of slides, about 100, was South Asia.
Okay.
In 1964, I think. And I went, well, where in South Asia? So I asked my mom, my father's passed away, and I asked, where was this from? She goes, I have no idea. She's like, they've gone to China, they went to Taiwan, they went here, they went to Thailand. I don't know where it is.
Right.
And so I asked the AI. And this brings me to an old James Bond film called You Only Live Twice. Okay. And during that film, they have a slide, a microfilm slide of a boat on a coastline, and they said, we don't know what this is. And the head of the Japanese Secret Service goes and sends an entire group, like team of people, to go figure out where this is. And I laughed to myself and said, well, I wonder what AI could do. So one of the AIs that we have access to here at the university is the Google AI, and it's very easy for us to set up for faculty members.
Okay.
This is something you could not easily do on Copilot. It would take a lot of time to get set up on AWS because of our licensing. Okay. But with Google, it can get you set up in like hours.
And this is Google Gemini? Or?
This is called... This is based on Google Gemini. It is Gemini.
Okay.
Barb is the new one. We're just getting access to it.
Okay.
But here you can go and ask Google to describe the image for you. And if you give it cool prompts, such as, where is this? Then it'll try to identify where it is. And it totally identified that it was Hong Kong.
Oh, wow.
And so it's 2 Chinese junks. And they said it was in Hong Kong. Now, initially, when I first set this up, I had been doing this just in their little web interface, but when I went to create the demo slides, it didn't work. And that's one of the things about AI. It works one day and it doesn't work the next, and it works the following day.
Yep.
So I said to myself, this is horrible. I got to get these slides for the COCE presentation on Monday. And I think it was Thursday that I was doing this.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, you know what? It would be a really good thing to be able to come to this group and say, hey, this is how much time it took to do this. Not just for my slide, which was easy and cool, that identified 2 traditional Chinese vessels in South Asia, most likely Hong Kong, in the 1960s or 1970s, and that it identified the skyline.
Amazing.
Awesome and amazing. But what happens when I take something like slide number 2, which is a slide from the Arquin slide collection, which is a project we did with the National Institute of Arts and the Arts and Letters, where we are archiving these slides. And they scanned 15,000 slides and their descriptions, converted them to English and Spanish, and now we're hosting them. what type of description of these slides out of an actual like museum quality collection can we get? And that's what the second one is, which is a Mexican church. And we can get a detailed description of that church. As a matter of fact, sometimes when I pass this through the AI, I get the location, the date it was created, what the name of the church is, information on the style. And I can do that on thousands of them very, very fast. It takes about 5 to 10 seconds to get the answer from the AI.
That's amazing.
And that's if we do it individually, but we can go parallel.
Wow.
So
15,000 images went through and you got descriptions, and that took a couple of hours.
It would take a couple hours.
And without AI, how long would that have taken?
It would take a human being to write each one of those descriptions. Now, I do want to put some comments about these AI generators.
Right.
Sometimes they get it wrong.
Right.
And now, I didn't post this because it's a photo of my children, but I have a 16-year-old and a 2-year-old.
Okay.
And I took my 16-year-old and the 2-year-old to the zoo, the Palm Beach Zoo. We love going to the Palm Beach Zoo. And they have these awesome bronze statues of the tigers.
Okay.
And the biggest thing is all the kids go and sit on the dirty, nasty statue. So what do? I take both my daughters, I put them on the dirty, nasty statue, and I take a picture of them. And I said to myself, wouldn't it be great if I passed that to the Google AI and had it describe that photo? And my daughter became a mom. And this really upset her.
Yeah.
And it triggered her.
Oh.
Because she had gone to the Palm Beach Fair with the family,
Right.
And she was holding our daughter when she was an infant, and a bunch of high school students who she went to high school with had made fun of her for being a teenage mom,
They assumed.
and it hurt her feelings.
Of course.
And so when she was sitting here helping me do the work, because she's really into technology too, she was like, "Well, that's not fair." She got really mad and she ran upstairs, and I was like, that just cost me therapy money because she's so upset about that.
Yeah.
And so the problem with AI is that it might not realize the same thing that would be realized from a human being writing the description.
It makes assumptions or it's hallucinations.
That's right.
It didn't say that's maybe a mother and child,
Right.
or maybe, no, it was just, this is what it is. Okay.
Now, it could have said they look so much alike that obviously they're mother and child.
Right.
But it was upsetting to my daughter.
Yeah.
And so these are the things we learn as we're going through this stuff, that maybe it's not ethically correct to ask it that question. So then what do? We modify the prompt.
Right.
Don't go personal.
Yeah.
Don't describe it in that way. Try to avoid this way of describing it. And so that's where classes in prompt engineering, which might be a class that might be being offered in the College of Business and the College of Engineering next term. I think they are.
Okay.
Really good classes that might be useful for people to take.
Yeah, I definitely think so. I've noticed that in using it myself, that sometimes like I need to be really, really specific. And then other times if I'm too specific, it doesn't work at all. And so then I have to be more general. And so it's really, I think, about testing it out, playing with it and seeing.
And sometimes you have to start from scratch.
Yeah.
So one of the things I like to remind people when I'm working on is keep track of what you ask the AI.
Okay.
Because when you're working with, for instance, Copilot, and you're having a discussion, it's remembering what you asked last time.
Okay.
And so it doesn't start hallucinating, but it kind of starts following the tract of your discussion and trying to please you.
Okay.
And so sometimes what I find is I have to stop the discussion, open up a new browser, or click the reset button, basically the equivalent of the reset button, and be like, okay, let's go through those prompts again. And if I ask you this in a slightly different way, do I get a slightly different answer?
Okay.
And that, again, that's kind of all that prompt engineering experience that you can get.
For sure.
And I find that when I use the Google AI, or I use a ChatGPT style AI where I can say, I don't want you to have a memory.
Okay.
And so by default, Copilot has a memory. In the example that I was giving you with the Chinese junks photo slide and my daughter's slide, I can do that in a way with the programmatic APIs
Right.
that it doesn't have a memory.
Oh, okay.
And so you can have multimodal, which is going to give you a back and forth chat where it remembers, but you can also have single modal,
Where it doesn't.
where it doesn't have a memory. And so you can say, start from scratch each time.
I like that.
Yeah, and it's so knowing which type of prompts you want to work with, they're very useful. And so when you're doing like image generation, a lot of the time those are single modal. They don't remember what you asked last.
Which is better though.
Which is good for that. You don't really, like if you ask for a photo of dragons flying over New York fighting F-35 fighters, And then you all of a sudden you go and you ask for a scenic vista over a mountain with snow. You don't want the dragons coming into the
Yes.
scenic vista with mountains over the snow.
Exactly.
And by the way, when I did the F-15 and dragons scene, I ended up with F-15 with dragon wings on them instead of F-15s fighting the dragons.
That's so funny.
Which is what I would typically have given both,
Right.
but I ended up with F-15 shaped dragons with wings.
That's hysterical. Oh, man. How do you think this whole, AI initiative that we're kind of going through is going to affect teaching and learning?
I think we need to get ideas into the hands of the faculty. So that at least when I saw the AI playground discussions, what I really liked about how Willie answered questions and how Jason answered questions was it was never, no, you're wrong.
Yeah.
It was never, no, that's a bad idea. It was always, here's what we can do.
Exactly.
Here's how we can use it. Here's how we can take advantage of it. And so I think one of the things we need to keep focusing on is not fighting the AI, because no matter what we do, it's going to be there and it's going to be smarter than us.
Yep.
Not from the point of view of that it's smarter than us, because right now it's a toddler, barely. It's like a 6-month-old.
Okay.
But how do we use it to save us time so that we can work on the things that really matter? How do we really want to test or evaluate our students? How do we want to teach our students?
All right. Well, it looks like we do have a question from the audience.
Thank you. Yeah. First of all, Ryan, I have to say thank you for your work in Cub Scouts. That's a focus of mine as well, and I think that's amazing. But also based on the conversations, I do tend to use a lot of photographs in my presentations, both presentations with here and I'm an adjunct as well. And thank you for providing a little bit of a foundation for how to present the photographs, how to get some background information, and what to do with them. Thank you so much.
So I want to add about images in your presentation.
Okay.
My presentations are normally blah because I am not artistic in
Okay.
any way, shape, or form. But if I go to an AI generator that'll generate images, I can give it a subject and say, create an image
Yep.
based upon the contents of this slide. And wow, anybody's gone to the AI Playground website and you see all the images that are on that, nearly every single image in the playground was generated by an AI.
Wow.
So
I haven't tried it with slides like you have. I've done it like just, giving it a little prompt and getting an image. And I feel like it's really helped me when I'm like helping faculty do their PowerPoint slides. Because I used to spend hours on Google, like, no, I don't like that image. No, I don't like that image. And now it's just
and you don't have to worry about the copyright.
also, yes.
All right. So like instead of going, oh man, I forgot to cite that Wikipedia
Right.
photo that
Yeah.
I found that was useful, or this one that I can't find. I don't even remember where I found it, and Google can't find it anymore. Now you just go put the AI tag in there that they give you for
Right.
citing it.
Yep.
But yeah, on the AI website, I was shocked. I walked in, I go, hey guys, who did all the images for the playground? They're amazing.
They really are.
I'm like, and they said, oh, one of our web designers, who does not do images herself at all, and she will say, I don't do that.
Yeah.
She just went in and prompt engineered every one of the images.
Yeah, I love that owl that first shows
Yeah,
up.
that first image out.
So nice.
That was generated that way. And so look at it as a way to snazz up, make your PowerPoints more snazzy. Anything we can do to keep their attention is going to be useful. The other really cool benefit, and this is just if you do a lot of PowerPoints, it gets you away from having a PowerPoint slide full of words.
Yes.
So one of my biggest fail points when I make a PowerPoint slide is it's full of words. And what I get, a lot of comments I get from my students are there's too much data, too much content, and I can make 7 slides last 3 hours.
Yeah.
When really what I should be doing is having 40 slides where each slide is like 2 or 3 bullets, and then we discuss those bullets. I'm not going to put every word in there, but I want to put the bullets in there.
Yeah.
Have the AI give you something to take up the space so the slide doesn't feel empty.
Exactly.
And 10 seconds to make a slide image that's based upon that content, that's good enough. That's great.
amazing.
Use it.
Yeah. Looks like we have another question from the audience.
Yes, so Aubrey wants to know what are some of the easier ways I can start using AI in my workload, and how did you get started yourself?
This sounds like a research question. The number one thing that you want to look at when you're looking at using AI in your workload is what type of AI am I working with?
Okay.
2, can I write a little bit of Python?
Okay.
And 3, do I have money to fund it, or do I have to find the right library that's going to let me use the on-premises resources?
Okay.
So I was looking at the RQuinn slide project when I was doing these slides, and one of the questions I had was how long would it actually take faculty members to do it? So when I started doing this demo for this, just for these little slides, the reason they're in Jupyter Notebook is because the Google AI was hallucinating and wigging out on me. Matter of fact, it said that the Chinese junk was a swan.
Oh, wow.
So it wasn't working, and I was freaking out, sweating bullets. It was Thursday. I didn't want to work over the weekend. So instead, what I did is I jumped on the HPC cluster.
Okay.
I started up On Demand. I logged in and I created a Jupyter Notebook session. And Jupyter Notebooks is a tool that helps people who don't code every day develop these resources. And the only code I had to Google, even though I know Python, I Googled this because I was trying to prove a point, was how do I loop over a directory of images? So imagine you take all the images, you put them in a directory, and you want it to process all the images. So it was 5 minutes to realize that the AI was messing up, 5 minutes to copy and paste the images into a directory, 5 minutes to copy some code into On Demand, 20 minutes to follow Google's instructions to set up the authentication to my Google project so I could get billed for it, because there's a charge for these things, and then about 5 minutes to deal with some bugs. And then it was processing images. And I processed 10, but I could have processed 15,000.
Right.
And the key is once you do it once, then you've got your workflow set up, you save the Jupyter Notebook, and you can come back and do it again.
Amazing.
And this is something that we have done with machine learning, but that generative AI makes even better. My favorite machine learning thing that we've done here is something called the Monkey ID project.
Okay.
And so we have a researcher who goes out to Africa and she takes photos of monkeys and she looks at their life cycle and what they're doing and all these things, but they need to be able to figure out what monkey's which monkey, and apparently human beings are fairly bad at determining which monkey is which monkey. Just like if we were looking at dolphins in the Indian Lagoon and we're using photos of their dorsal fins and we wanted to identify them. Again, humans are pretty bad at looking at those marks, but the AIs are really good at this. And so we have a website, literally monkeyid.hpc.fu.edu, that you can use facial recognition to recognize which monkey is which monkey. The real fun part happens when you take a picture of a human and you upload it and it's like, this is a monkey. And that's because AI is dumb, but it tries.
Okay.
And generative AI is smarter.
Okay.
And so if we were to give it generative AI that data set and some data sets of like, let's say every owl card photo that we have, that would be kind of cool.
Okay.
And then you say identify the people. It does a really good job of that.
Of knowing.
Not that we've done it with owl cards, but we did it with photos of people in OIT to
Right.
prove how it would work.
So you're saying then that generative AI was able to identify, oh, well, these are humans and these are monkeys, but then
That's right.
What was the other one?
The machine learning
Machine
identified
learning.
a human as a monkey.
Okay. So machine learning could be really good when it's taught a specific
right.
thing, better than generative AI. But then if it's not taught specific, it kind of like hallucinates.
It goes off the rails,
Okay.
but it's not technically hallucination. It's just like low probability of success.
Okay.
You go to the doctor's office and you go and get a brain scan and there's like, hey, do you have a tumor?
Okay.
They typically run that through a machine learning AI to identify regions of density changes in the MRI image.
Okay.
That's typically machine learning.
Oh, wow.
They've trained it to learn that skill set, and that's the only skill set it can do. And it's only looking for cancer, typically certain types of cancer.
Okay.
And typically it's a different AI for each model of cancer they're looking for. With the new generative AIs, they can be trained on a data set, and then they can go and be passed that same image, but they're going to be like, show me all the data.
Okay.
And not only that, you didn't train it, it just kind of does it. And it's just a different way of doing it.
Super interesting.
Yeah.
Looks like we have another question from our audience.
So Moises wants to know what are the key steps involved in creating your own generative AI model? And does this mean we can train our own personal AI training assistant?
The first step in making your own GPT, that's kind of, I think that's where they're going, is I want my own chat GPT that's going to be specialized in a very specific area. Well, there's some really good examples that came out of Yale and Stanford. They've done some good models where they point the GPT at a data set.
Okay.
And they say, I only want you to answer based upon the data and the information in this data set. And that would be that would be teaching it with your own things.
Okay.
And so, for instance, during the AI Playground, there was a question that was similar to this discussion during our meeting on Friday. And if I want it to give answers only based upon like my lectures and my course content,
Right.
well, I would feed it, and I don't know if you legally can do this, but I would do this if I had the ability to do it.
Right.
I would feed it my textbook.
Right.
I would feed it all my lecture slides. I would feed it the audio and video content
Right.
of my lectures from previous semesters. Any questions students have asked, feed it that information. And now I have a GPT based upon just my information and my data. And when I ask it a question, that's all it's going to use to understand its place in the world. That's a lot of work, though.
It is.
So you know what you want to start with?
What?
Prompt engineering.
Okay.
So instead of giving it all that data, what if I went to Copilot or went to Google Barb and gave it some guidelines about how I would like it to respond?
Okay.
And I see how that works first. And so, for instance, maybe I want to answer questions about human resource questions here at the university because our website's difficult to find answers to a question. Like, what is the maternity leave policy for FAU?
Okay.
You'd be surprised if I asked that question straight there. I'm not going to get FAU as the first answer. So you add a guardrail.
Yep.
Based upon the information about Florida Atlantic University, and then the person asks, what is their maternity leave policy? And it goes and gives the maternity leave policy or the parental leave policy.
Right.
And you go, okay, well, that was good, but the data's out of date because there's a random PDF file that's sitting on the website that's linked.
Yeah.
And it's not even HR's website. It's over on OIT's website for some weird reason. I'm just throwing ourselves under the bus. So that's not going to work.
Yeah.
So instead, what we'd want to do is go, well, is there a way we can limit it to just to just the HR website? And that's where you go, okay, well, you know what? In this case, we really want to be specific. Dump it the data.
Yep.
And so that's kind of how we start with it. But it's not that hard, especially if you do have a textbook and you have a lot of lecture material.
Yeah.
You pass it into we can build a GPT, and we're looking at a software solution to help faculty do this. But in theory, you could create your own GPT with your own information, and the data and responses be only based upon your data, your information.
Yeah. And not come from the other.
Because I mean, imagine you are the expert in teaching a
Exactly.
subject. You are the only expert in teaching the subject, and you teach your subject XYZ, and everybody else in the world teaches it ABC.
Yep.
Well, the students going and asking it and getting ABC style answers is not going to help them on learning, for instance, marketing.
Yep.
But if you give it your data, they will.
It's like having your teacher's assistant.
Yeah, it's going to be like your own little teacher's assistant.
Yeah. Love it. Love it. I think that's it. I don't have any other questions. I don't know if you have anything else that you would like to share.
I want everybody to know that we are here to help.
Okay.
We do work with faculty all the time, and we're here to assist, that the resources are there, that we're listening, and that we are changing the way we do computing based upon what's going on with AI and the feedback that we get from faculty members.
Beautiful.
And that you can use it for things that you wouldn't think about. One exciting one that I want to try, and I need to talk to the faculty member, is identifying sharks
Oh, wow.
on the beach. And can we get AI to identify sharks on the beach?
That would be so
And I know they have days of video. And I'd love to figure out a way to process that without training it on AI. Instead of using machine learning, using generative.
Generative. Okay. Wow, that's really interesting.
Yeah, so that's an exciting thing. And we can do generative AI. And the other thing is we can do generative AI on campus.
Okay.
We have 48 GPU accelerators that are just there for faculty to use as part of that AI grant that we got that you called me out on when you gave my bio demo. We also have 20 of the second to latest generation. We're working with College of Engineering to get 8 times 4, so probably 24 to 32 of the latest generation accelerators for that. And anything that we run in our department, if we're paying for the hosting, if OIT is paying for the hosting, it's shared with the entire university. And so that is a very important thing to know, that if we run it, it's shared. If you don't want to share, you end up paying for hosting.
Okay.
But if you share, which is what we want everybody to get the benefit.
Yeah, the access to it.
It's there for everybody to gain it. So if you start hearing about big compute stuff being purchased and you're interested, just reach out. We can tell you whether or not it's something that's a shared resource.
Okay, beautiful. And we'll put the information to reach out also in the follow-up email for anyone who's interested. But otherwise, it was a pleasure having you here. It was a pleasure having all of you guests for our first Faculty Lounge Live to kick off the semester. If you guys have any questions that you could think about afterwards and you want some answers to, just go ahead and put it in the chat. We will have that open still for about another 4 or 5 minutes. Otherwise, you could email me back at the email that will be in the follow-up with all the information from today. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.